Building a model steam plant using two engines. Part 5. Modifying the exhaust flanges on both of the engines to accept ME pipe fittings. And just in case you're confused, these are not the two engines that I'm going to be using on this steam plant. These are two small hand-cranked generators that I bought via eBay. I assume that there's something to do with telecommunications, so if any viewers out there know exactly what these are, I'd like to hear from you. These are very old and very well made, and they both work. And because they're geared already, it saves a lot of messing about. Your steam engine wouldn't have to run very fast to spin this at a suitable speed to generate a usable DC voltage. I'm pretty sure that these work some sort of telephone ringing system, because as you turn the handle, the shaft moves in and out and makes and breaks the connection via a microswitch. This function could be very easily disabled by using some Loctite 603 on the main shaft. Yesterday I went up to Blackgates Engineering, and once again I'd like to thank the gentleman who left a voucher behind the counter. I was running low on copper shim washers and 5BA bolts. I don't keep them in the packets though, I always put them in these small plastic boxes. Right, that's enough of that. It's time to pipe the exhausts from both of these engines to the very pretty brass chuff pot that sits in the middle of the plant. I need to fit a steam union like this to each of the flanges, although this one's no good because it's a 1/4x40 one. I need to use 5/16x32. For any viewers watching this who don't know what ME means, it stands for Model Engineer or Model Engineering, and it's a type of thread form commonly used in model engineering. Each of the flanges on both of the engines are held in place by 10BA bolts. The flange that was fitted to the Vulcan beam engine came off quite easily. The bolts were not very tight. But on this Cyclops engine the bolts were very tight and very tight all the way out. But eventually I got there and removed them. It took quite a long time with a very, very small BA spanner, and I didn't show this on the video because you don't want to hear a grown man cry. And now, without further ado, here they are. Two identical flanges on the bench, two very oily identical flanges on the bench. I'm going to be silver soldering these, so I'm sitting them in a small pot of cellulose thinners, and as we know, cellulose thinners is called lacquer thinner in the USA. I gave them a good stir and then removed them from the cellulose thinners using surgical forceps, health and safety, etc. Over now to my small Boxford lathe, and what I need to do is make some adapters that I'm going to silver solder into the two flanges that you've just seen. First of all, I need to reduce the end of the piece of brass down to 1/4 inch. Although I haven't shown it at this stage, I used a micrometer first, and I got it to the final size, which is a nice easy fit using the flange. For all the purists who are watching, this first sequence has been in real time, now it's speeded up because life is too short to watch a piece of metal spinning round while I remove little bits of it. So after many applications of the micrometer to make sure it's the right size, and it's a nice easy fit on the flange, I don't want it to be a tight fit, because if it was very tight on the shaft, the silver solder would not penetrate. In this clip, I'm threading the main part of the brass bar using my tailstock die holder fitted with a 5/16x32 threads per inch die. Normally I do this by hand, but to save time for the video I did it under power. I put the lathe in back gear so it's going very slowly. I ran the die down a second time, and this time with a bit of lubricant because the brass was squeaking quite a lot. If when you're machining brass you get this high-pitched squeaking noise, use a little bit of lubricant. Here's the finished thread, and in this clip I'm using an old paintbrush to brush away the chippings. Now I need to part it off to the correct length. When these union nuts are tightened up on the flanges, which will have these adapters fitted, I don't want too much thread showing. That's why I've just used a 5/16x32 threads per inch nut, so I can part it off to the correct length. And here's the parting operation. Again, it's making a bit of a squeaking noise, but it's not the end of the world. Brass is nowhere near as hard as the tool steel that's cutting it, so it's hardly likely to lock up. This has nothing to do with the size of the lathe. You often get chatter on small lathes. It's just that the brass is bending because it's a very soft metal. Please excuse my massive hand coming into the picture. I never part off all the way if I can help it. I part off nearly to the end and then break it off, because if it falls into the chip tray, it may be gone forever. Although I must admit, on this lathe, the small Boxford, I have cleaned out the chip tray. It's not too bad now. That's one done, now time for the other. Oh, I hate mass production. So I've speeded this part up by 400%. I set the parting tool this time, not using a union nut. I used the first part that I'd made as a guide. The next part of the sequence is to drill the hole down the centre, because this wouldn't be a good union if it didn't have a hole down the centre. I'm using a centre drill first, as always, but in this case I'm making a deep depression in the end of the piece, and this is to accept the 60-degree coned union that will be silver soldered onto the end of the pipe. The hole down the centre of this adapter is 5/32 of an inch. Here I'm repeating the process on the other piece of brass. Nothing new here, it's exactly the same process as previously shown. And eventually I end up with 2 union adapters. I'm coating the ends of them with some silver solder flux. You will notice that the 4x40 part of the union adapters doesn't go all the way through the flange. There's a reason for this. With both of the flanges sat on their respective union adapters, it's time to silver solder them together. You can see how I'm doing this, plenty of heat. When it gets to red heat, I apply the solder which flashes round the joint, and that's why the brass part doesn't come to the end of the flange, because the silver solder would make the end of the flange that fits the engine uneven. Normally I use sticks of silver solder, but when you're using the wire type, remove the blowtorch slightly before you apply this wire type silver solder, otherwise it's likely to melt and drop off before it gets anywhere near the part. Once the components have cooled sufficiently, and it's called cooled to black, which means they're no longer glowing red, quench them in water. Not only does this make it safe to handle them, the thermal shock removes some of the oxidized scale. The only problem with silver soldering as opposed to soft soldering is the heat is intense and you have to spend some time cleaning up the parts. I should really put these in the acid bath, but I cleaned them up on the polishing spindle and they look fine. I'm applying some Loctite 542 to the flange so that when it's bolted to the mating surface of the cylinder, nothing's going to leak. If you watched the last episode, it's exactly the same as I did with the inlet flange. I'm fitting the flange to the Vulcan beam engine first, using my modified box spanner, and now I'm fitting the other flange to the Cyclops engine. And here I'm fitting a union nut to make sure it fits. Yes, it fits and it looks okay. And here on the Vulcan, this one fits too, and that's very good news. The flanges now look okay, and the next job is to make the piping, and that's in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.